This is It's Not in the Syllabus podcast, the how-tos of a student beyond classroom walls. This is the podcast where you, yes you, get to learn what they don't teach you at school and ace that test called life, or at least get a passing grade and get by. It's Not in the Syllabus is a podcast brought to you by the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, together with the Student Association, where we feature stories by the students and for the students. Join us as we discover life lessons you'll surely need.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of It's Not in the Syllabus. We are in episode 21, and today we are going to discuss the very interesting topic, which is third cultural kid. And with me, I have two, I wouldn't call them kids, but two adults who I consider third cultural kid. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
We're good, yes. But it does exist.
It does exist.
Yes, ATCK,
ATCK.
Adult Third Culture Kid.
Adult
So we
third
have
cultural
like
kid.
some oxymoron there.
Okay.
Adult TCK.
Very good. So with me, I have Edmond Rasmerita. He is one of the son, or I wouldn't say the son. His parents are working here at IS at the seminary. And I have Jomar, who
Yes.
is a seasoned at IS, is a teacher at the English Center. And we are going to have this interactive discussion. Let me basically, before we go into the definition, but tell me a brief of your story. Where were you born, and why do you think you're at TCK?
So, okay. My name is Edmond. I was born in Moldova,
All right.
my home country and the country of my parents.
Mhm.
I was, and after that, about a few weeks, we moved here to IS.
Just after you were born.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, very recently. And so I have that as bragging rights that I've been on planes since I was 3 weeks old.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a privilege.
it is definitely. And my parents wanted to study here, so they did. And I was very quickly immersed into the multicultural atmosphere here at IS.
Okay.
We lived here for about 6 years.
All right.
And so my father studied, and then after that he worked for about 2 years here as a professor, and then after that he was called to
Mhm.
the Adventist University of Africa.
That's in Kenya.
Yes.
All right.
We moved there. We lived for 4 years
Mhm.
and a half, and then also getting to know the culture there in Africa
Right.
and to meet different kinds of
Right,
people.
right, right.
And from there we moved to Chile, lived there for 5 years and a half.
Wow.
We learned Spanish because they don't.
Habla español.
Yes,
Oh.
sí, hablo español.
Oh, good.
Because the advantage in Philippines and Kenya is that they both speak English.
All right.
Both countries have it as an official language, so there was no necessity to learn a new language in Kenya. But in in Chile,
Yeah.
there definitely was
And
that necessity. So, but it has proved to be a blessing and a benefit
All right,
because
all right.
there are a lot of Spanish speakers, and so you
Okay.
can easily communicate with
We're
many
gonna
people.
come back to the benefits of it, but let me hear from Jomar.
Okay, so mine is actually quite complicated because my
All right.
family.
Not like a relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean it. It depends on how you see it, but my family is actually quite. Yeah, it's a complex thing to describe because my
Okay.
grandparents are actually like Spanish in culture.
Wow.
And then my mom actually has a Bicolano culture,
Mhm.
and my other relatives in the house have also like a Filipino or like they're all mixed actually. So
Okay.
when I was little, I was with them in Manila, and we don't actually live the culture of the Filipinos in Manila. We
Okay.
usually follow the head of the house, which is my grandmother.
Okay.
So just by that, you can see a little conflict already. And
Okay.
later on, when I was grade 5, grade 5, yeah, I had to move to Bicol,
Mhm.
which is totally a different culture again for
Altogether.
for like from mine.
Mhm.
And then I stayed there for 2 years. I had to learn the language as well.
Wow.
And communicate with people, because when I was young, I only knew my mom,
Okay.
Bicolano. That was the only specimen that I had.
Alright.
And later on, I had to meet other people. And then when I was grade 7, I came here to IS and then met new people. And then later on, I moved again back to Manila, and then I came back here
Wow.
to IS. But after that, I experienced, like here in IS, I've been immersed with lots of culture, like
Mhm.
as well. But after that, I also went to Indonesia, and then I started traveling. But that
Alright.
was later on.
So
It's a complicated TCK, huh?
yeah, it's quite complicated. But I wanna briefly know, where did you learn to speak so many languages?
That's actually one of the versatility that I've had ever since I was little, because
Alright.
when I was young, I knew that when I talk to my mom, I have to speak in this language. When I talk with my playmates, I use another language. When I talk with my
Oh.
grandmother,
Mhm.
like it's also in another language. So by that, I already know that I have to adjust to people. So when I
Yeah.
went to Bicol, that was another adjustment for me. And then when I came here, I actually noticed there were more people to adjust to. I mean, not just like one set of people. And
I
because
see.
of that, like it just scattered.
You know,
more.
one thing for those who are at home, I usually call Jomar All Nation. That's what I call him. But this is the name that I have for him. But I want to know now, how do you describe a TCK? Maybe let me begin with Edmond, and then we go to Jomar.
A personal description
Yeah,
or
description.
definition.
Because you
well, I
gave
wanted
it-
to use the
yeah.
definition that
Was
the
coined by-
sociologist who coined the term used.
By the way, you have the book here. You can
Yes.
just mention.
Yes.
The classic literature is
Mhm.
this one, Third Culture Kit, The Experience of Growing Up Among Worlds by
Alright.
David Pollock and
Yeah.
Ruth Van Recken.
Okay.
That describes a lot of the characteristics they have, the
Mhm.
benefits and the struggles
Yeah.
that TCKs will be dealing with. So that's a great book
Mhm.
if you want to check it out.
Yeah. But tell us about the definition. How do you
The
describe
definition, the
TCK?
first definition was simply that they were the children of who went with their parents to a completely different society.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
But it was too general, a little bit too vague.
Yeah.
So that was the original definition of Ruth Yusim, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. Then later on, David Pollock decided to improve that definition to simply
Definitely.
that the first culture is that of the parents.
All right.
Right? And I'm not saying that both parents are exactly from the same culture. It could
Mhm.
also be that they're from two different cultures, but
Exactly.
that constitutes the first culture.
Okay.
The host country is the second culture.
All right.
The third culture is what the child does, combines the first two and creates the third culture.
Oh,
and that's
okay,
where the
okay.
term comes from.
I see.
So
I
sometimes
see,
you
I
can,
see.
you can have more culture than
Yeah,
Actually, you do
and
say.
then
two, actually.
you just combine and then
So that's why we
I
have
see.
complicated
at some point you could
Yeah.
even be a sixth culture child.
sex culture.
We are getting there, I guess.
Yeah.
But Joma, will you be able to tell us what are the benefits of a TCK? And when we talk about benefits, we're definitely going to talk about the side effects of a TCK.
Mm.
So what could be some of the benefits and disadvantages?
You already mentioned one.
Yeah.
That was
Of course, like language is one of it, but I just want to, like, more than language, I think
Mhm.
language is just an effect of one thing.
Yeah.
Like when I was young, I actually noticed this. I become very empathetic. Like,
Okay.
so you actually try to check the surrounding, and because of that, you adjust. That's why most of the time
Mhm.
you get the language.
Will you see it as a benefit or disadvantages? of
Well,
TCK?
it's compassion in a way. Like you
Alright.
need to, for example, when I was young, like I've met like people here, for example, in IS, they were just learning English, and they try to talk to you, and I try to meet with them
Yeah.
so much that I actually like fell down to theirs. You understand?
I see,
Instead
I
of
see, I see,
them
I see. Bringing
going-
them to your own
yeah,
thought.
sometimes it goes like that because you want to the desire to reach to
Yeah.
people.
the animal to describe TCKs
Yeah.
is chameleon.
A chameleon,
Yeah, so
yes.
you know what that is. It's a lizard that changes the
It's-
color of its skin.
Definitely.
But then there are also plenty of other creatures like the octopus
Okay.
that changes its skin, even the texture
Would
of
you
its
like
skin
to be
to
an
adapt.
octopus or a chameleon?
But that would be a better animal because its tentacles reach in different places.
Okay.
And that's another benefit of TCKs is that they developed very large networks of people all over. They are global networks, not local networks.
So that could be one of
the benefits,
aside
definitely.
of the many.
Yeah.
And the disadvantage of
That's why I would like to add another metaphor would be that being a TCK is like being a double-edged sword. You know,
All right.
One aspect would be the relationships.
Okay.
That being a TCK is great for being for relationships because you make friends very easily with anyone.
Okay.
Really, you meet a lot of people. You can communicate with them. You understand the culture very quickly.
Definitely.
Those kinds of things. But when it comes to relationships with your family, for example, many TCKs they live abroad or long away, or they might be perceived differently by their own cousins and peers. The cousins look at them. They live in the host country all their lives, and they look at this person who's come home from abroad. Yeah. And they're just a little bit weird, and we don't see eye to eye. Why don't they understand this joke or this cultural?
Or sometimes you have to pretend this is funny, but
you processing like, what did he just say?
And at the same time, not spending that much time with grandparents. So that's an unfortunate part with
actually
with my life.
There is this. What I hear from you, there is this limitation of family bonding.
Yes,
because you grew up most likely with friends around the world, with your mother and your dad, but you don't have that connections with your external.
But even with friends as well.
With
friends, sometimes for some TCKs they move every 2 or years, and so that can create some problems, anxiety or unresolved. They don't resolve the closure. You know, just as you described in a previous podcast.
You watched that? Good.
I did some research.
I told you not to.
Sure, but tell me something. Both of you have different experiences as a TCK. Personally, we're now talking about personal experiences. Have you encountered some side effects of TCK, and if so, what are those? Yes.
In my case, for example, I love listening to people. I usually want to hear how they are. I want to learn more, dive deep. But later on, when you go back to yourself, you actually tend to question. I always when it comes to symbols, for example, I always ask, in the class, for example, they ask what object would you be? I always tell myself I'm liquid usually because I do not know my shape anymore when I'm alone.
Wow.
Because I usually take the shape of my container. I mean, for example, if I'm with you, I tend to be it just comes natural
to fit in.
Yeah,
chameleon.
That chameleon or something like that. But later on, when you are alone, you tend to question yourself, who am I? Or for example, when you ask an opinion from your parents, sometimes it's not satisfying yet for me. It's not everything. I want to see other perspectives, and those things make you unsatisfied most of the time. You become perfectionist in a way.
So you wanna do more than
this is not enough. It should be more.
Yes.
You complicate things
because you have taken a lot of the thinking. It's not that you adopt some cultural norms or the language, even the way of thinking is adopted embedded. It influences you. And I wanted to get to an even bigger issue than relationships. A big issue is that of identity, of who you are, or where you're from.
I was coming to that.
Yeah, that is
that's
so
so painful. You know, you just you shook me there.
Yeah, that is the issue of TCKs.
All right.
Because I could, for example, say that I went to Chile. They are very patriotic. They are very patriotic people. They, for example, they love football and the football team. And
do you love?
Yes, I do. I do like football as in soccer, the one that's played all over the world. And so they are just happy when they beat all of their neighboring countries. And I was with them that way. But now coming out of that, it's
basketball.
that has no, well, Yeah, no. I still
I
like
mean, here
football.
in the Philippines, though, it's basketball.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And so perhaps people who had more formative, the issue is that when I was a lot younger
Yeah.
when I was here the first time, so I
Alright.
didn't get that much. But perhaps people who are a bit older, maybe in their teenage years, and were here at IS,
Yeah.
they would have more attraction to basketball
To basketball.
if they were
That
here.
identity crisis is really
Ye-
something. For example, for me, as a Filipino, I don't play basketball. Just for those people, I don't play basketball.
You have failed.
I play badminton, and then like
it's a
Ah,
big
no,
trend,
I'm
that's
by the
from
good,
way.
that's good.
Bicol. I don't eat anything spicy. That's so disheartening, and yeah, not anything at
But
all.
at
because
least
my
you
mom-
play badminton. Not,
Yeah, that's Indonesian. We don't have badminton in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Barely. Like I mean, it's not very common here.
So in your own country, you're basically saying that you don't.
Yeah, I don't like right now since Kuya Arnold is here. So usually I'm not brave to say I am a Filipino when there are Filipinos around
Mm.
me because it intimidates
So
me
how
a
do you
lot.
how do you identify yourself?
Exactly. That's you don't ask that question. Like
But I need to ask because you got a passport.
Uh-huh.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
You own the passport. That's one of your identity. So what
Yeah,
does your
that's-
passport tells you who you are?
we do know
we
that
do
we
know
have
that,
the
but
passport.
It's not enough. I mean, most of when I was in another country, like for example Peru, a lot of people they got disappointed because they know what a typical Filipino is supposed to be.
To
Like for
do.
example, or to do, like they eat lots of rice and all of those, like the normal stereotype.
Yeah.
But when they saw I'm the only Filipino they meet, they're like, hey, they look disappointed, and I feel so bad for that. I'm like, oh man, like I'm not representing my country so well. You know?
Yes.
So, something like that. Does it happen to you? Too?
Yes, it does.
You're actually about to hint on something about the passport, the identity.
We TCKs are very aware
Mhm.
of their home country, their
Alright.
passport country.
Great.
You see, they're very aware, and then many times they might even be excited. For example, if they've never visited
Mhm.
the home country
Yeah.
ever, and some of them don't do.
Wow.
Others they do have the opportunity to go back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
Others they were born in a different country, they've lived or they've gone around, and then they just hear stories
Mhm,
from
mhm.
their parents
Mhm.
about the home country, the home country.
Sure.
And so sometimes they would get excited about that. They would arrive finally
Mhm.
into this place, and sometimes it's also to settle.
I
But when
see.
they do, they feel
That-
uprooted. They feel they're not supposed.
They don't belong.
Yeah,
there.
they don't
there's
belong.
something lacking.
Let me get this correct. As a TCK, you actually grew up at IS, then you moved to Kenya, and then you went to Chile, and then you came to the Philippines.
Yes.
So, did your parents in somehow used to take you to your home country, or it was just Philippines, Kenya?
Yeah, we since they are also part of the ISE program,
Okay,
they have annual leave
all right, all
to our
right.
home country. So
So
we
you
were
got
able
to know your own country basically when you
yeah.
travel.
But even to this day,
Mhm.
there are many things that I
You
don't know very well.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
And also, unfortunately, I would say that my native tongue is
Yeah.
the weakest of the three that I speak.
All right.
My strongest is English.
All
My
right.
second strongest is Spanish
Okay.
because I spoke it with the local people in Chile,
Definitely.
and I use it academically. Romanian, I only use it to talk with family and friends, and so
Okay.
it's colloquial or
Mm-hmm.
speaking
Yeah.
at this level, but not academically. So it's on the weaker point. But
So the only language that you were enabled to learn was Swahili.
yes.
I think you need to go back to Kenya.
But in Kenya, they spoke English.
They
and
do. Actually, they speak very well.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do. They
yeah.
do. The other thing is that in Kenya at AUA, we were also living with a lot of people who are like us,
All right.
other
yeah.
TCKs, and so there was not that much need.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas in
definitely.
Chile, we had the most exposure to the local population.
I see. As we going to wrap up, what are some of the things you would like to share that you personally experienced as a TCK in your journey? What are some of the things that you say? Okay, maybe someone at home is watching, and he's a TCK. He's really is feeling lost, not self-identification. But what are some of the things that you like to say? Okay, ma'am, I've been there.
I use being a TCK as an advantage for example, teaching. You can actually use it in order to like open the hearts and actually like attract. It's a hook for people because
Yeah.
you know how to get their attention because you know their culture at least.
Definitely.
And for example, since I'm in the language world, like I get to see like where their focus is. Like since I speak lots of languages, I
How
use
many
that.
again?
Let's not count. Yeah, but it's more.
That's a state secret.
It's a secret. Yeah. But like for example, Portuguese or Indonesian, you can really distinguish the difference, like on how, and that thing is something that I use up to now in
Okay,
order,
great.
for my profession at least.
Great. Thank you.
There are a lot of tools and skills that TCKs can bring. I think
Alright.
that's part of the big benefit is that
The asset.
TCKs have great skills that I think can also be learned from.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing is that from the biblical perspective, we have examples of TCKs.
A lot.
The biggest one is Moses,
I
for
tell you.
example. He had a pretty rough ride,
Yeah.
but he was able to mediate between the two cultures, that of his parents and that of Egypt, and also create
Another one.
another one.
For
Yeah.
his
Another
also.
one is Daniel.
Yeah.
You see, and he was taken to Babylon later, but those were still his formative years.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
a teenager.
Yeah.
But again, as a mediator, and God used him and Moses for the good of their people. So that can be the same thing for TCKs. They have incredible skills. They will have issues with who they are,
Identity.
and where they come from,
Definitely.
and also with relationships with other people.
Mhm.
But at the same time, one can be confident, TCK can be confident that they have the skills to overcome these issues,
Yes.
and that God will help them overcome those
Definitely.
issues,
Amen.
and that they can
Thank
help
you.
other people that way.
Thank you. I think this deserves an amen. Thank you so much for enlightening these ideas about TCK. And one of the things that I can get from both of you is, as you were sharing your points, I remember that TCK are usually people who can learn faster, because individuals, it is scientifically proven, individuals that speak more than one languages are people who can perceive easily about any other thing. So I think that you guys have the benefits. I don't know if I haven't seen your grades yet, but I believe that you guys I believe you guys are doing well in school, correct?
Yeah.
How do you answer that question?
So I believe you guys are doing well in
Exposing me.
school, and in fact, it's a great advantage to be a TCK. Definitely, there is the side effects of it. There's also but I see it more into the benefit side than its advantage, because technology is here to connect with people. In as much we need a personal interaction, but we have technology. We can always link up with our uncles, with our aunties, and our grandma, and once in a while we can also visit our relatives.
I mean, that's how we're doing it now.
Yes, we can do it. So thank you guys for coming, and I hope next time I'll see you here. We won't be as a TCK no more. Maybe we'll be as a Fort.
4CK.
Fourth
4CK. Port culture.
Or culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
no.
FCK.
So in that category. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
God bless
It's a
you.
pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And I see you guys on the next episode. Continue to share these links with your friends on campus and off campus. Remember, it's not in the syllabus. Bye bye.